Hi, I'm Gordon Shadrach. Welcome to my solo show, Net Worth Plus, here in Toronto at United Contemporary Gallery.
Okay, who black, who black, who black, who not? I know you mad, they not. We the sports, in the music, do the math, we the culture. And I gotta ask of you, what have you brought? Look, this attaboy that made me an astronaut. I try to watch the news, but I'm lashing out. My daughter seen the murder on cellular phone, and that was not on purpose, was ordering truths. Okay.
Net Worth Plus is my continuing exploration of Black masculinity. In this case, I'm specifically looking at the stereotypes around Black men, physical strength and endurance, and how that connects to slavery, field labor, and athleticism. So this is called The Gloves Are Off, and it's made using vintage and antique seed and feed sacks from farms. The gloves are lined with burlap, which are rough on the skin, sort of to indicate the rough texture, the difficulty it would be to wear those gloves, especially if they're forced upon you. I'm connecting this whole idea to athleticism and slavery and the idea of forced work that would have been placed upon Black bodies historically. And so I've suspended the gloves from an antique rake head on the wall. I think it's really important at this time with the cultural shifts we're seeing with the momentum of the Black Lives Movement for Black people to acknowledge that we're not going to continue to be held back by the constraints of people who have tried to oppress us for so long, but to take the gloves off and fight the battles on our own terms. So this piece is called Nothing But Net. And you can see that I've used the seed and feed bags that I mentioned earlier, but I've also attached a fruit picking bag. And I really wanted to connect the idea of labor and slavery to professional sports. And one of the key connections to this piece is the fact that even if you attain the ultimate goal of being a professional athlete, you're still owned by an owner. Your body, the value of your body is still something that can be traded away to another team. And so an important part of this piece as well is that the net is elongated. It's ridiculously long. So even if you get the ball into the net, it's never really going to make its way through. And the net itself is closed at the bottom. To me, this represents the barriers that Black people face all the time with regards to moving forward and being successful in life. There are always barriers that make us, or that we have to work twice as hard to get through. This piece is called Contend, and it's a punching bag or a heavy bag that boxers would use. And I've covered it with the same seed and feed bags. I've also hardened it just like the boxing gloves as a way of representing that when an athlete is going for perfection, they do a lot of damage to themselves as well. It's been interesting talking to other people about this piece because some people say that to them, the bag represents the Black man who has taken a pounding, taking a beating, but still continues to thrive and still continues to survive. I've suspended it from a gold chain, again, as a way of showing the aspiration of reaching the top of one's field.
They mad, they high. They getting the badge is better than having some heart. Okay, look now, look how they running. They beating white people down just to show us what's coming. Or to show us we nothing. Or to show us we only welcome when singing or balling. Nigga, shut up and dribble.
Shut up and dribble.
Some of the inspiration for this show explores the representation of Black people in history in North America, and that involves showing some of my Black ephemera that I've collected over the years. These are some tins that would have been products that would have been sold in North America. This first one is chewing tobacco, and the second one is a cleaning agent. The chewing tobacco tin is comparing the texture of Black people's hair to that of the curly nature of the tobacco. This one here, Negro powder, is saying that it's going to work hard, just like your servant would for you. This piece is actually rare because it was produced and manufactured in Quebec, Canada, and where it's easier to find representations of Black people that are so dehumanizing in the US, it's rare to find the ones that originated in Canada. This painting is called Vim and Vigor, and it's taking the idea of that antiquated Negro powder tin and calling it Negro power. I wanted to take those images that were so dehumanizing and give back a sense of dignity to Black people. I didn't want to reclaim those images necessarily for us. I wanted to reimagine them and appropriate them in a way that's much more respectful. The piece in the hallway is also inspired by one of those antique tins over there, the tobacco tin. It's called Smoke or Chew. It was one of the slogans that's actually listed on the tin, but predominantly the actual name of the product is nigger hair, which is incredibly offensive. And I wanted to paint it again in a way that showed that we need to celebrate the things that make us beautiful and unique. And so I've rewritten the logo as natural hair, and the sitter in the painting looks confident and comfortable to be there. And I think it's really important to recognize that when we look at those caricatures on those tins and on all those products that we've seen historically, they're meant to dehumanize us and sort of represent a way of keeping us down. And I think it's really important that as Black people, we make sure we find ways to lift ourselves up. This painting is called Hoop. And if you look at it, you can see embedded in the camouflage, there is a person playing basketball. And for me, this is a really personal piece because I was asked to play basketball in high school because I was a tall, skinny Black kid. I had no interest in playing basketball whatsoever, but especially as an adult now, I realize that you cloak yourselves in these different ways of camouflaging yourself to blend in and do what's expected of you as a method of self-preservation. And I don't think people understand how much pressure gets put on you as a young person to fit the mold or fit the expectations that other people have on you based purely on the color of your skin. This piece is called Net Worth. It's the title piece of the show. And Net Worth talks about the worth or the value that people see on Black bodies. And I have the sitter adorned with a metal neck piece, and the neck piece is actually a metal basketball chain. And I wanted it to sort of call into question what sort of values we're putting on Black bodies in society, why some people are deemed more successful than others. I kept the chain purposefully silver. I didn't want to go with gold with that because to me, gold would have shown that this would have been an elevated status. But the reality is most people who are playing basketball, who are enjoying the sport for whatever reasons, we're going to be playing it in gyms and in schoolyards and in parks, not necessarily at the professional level. But that doesn't make those people any less valuable than the people that get celebrated the most. As the Black Lives Matter political movement really started to make more ground in North America, I realized that the mask was actually a really good metaphor for what a lot of Black people have to go through. And specifically, I wanted to connect it to my theme of the show, which is sports. And if you think about the idea of professional athletes who are praised for their skill and for their abilities, but often have been told that their opinions aren't important. So I've created a series that have turned sports equipment into masks. And the idea with the masks is that, of course, that they're hard to breathe in, that they prevent you from speaking clearly. And it's also kind of connects to the idea of the camouflage, that sometimes when people are looking at Black people, they're seeing these stereotypes of what makes them valuable. So I have the basketball, I have the football, and these are a pair of basketball shoes. This piece is called Amplify, Singing for Jessica. And this was done after Blackout Tuesday, and we saw a lot of performative allyship online, in particular on Instagram. And a Canadian celebrity revealed herself to be a performative ally at best. And when she got called out for making her mistakes and being called out for her racism, she did an official apology and was considering inviting Black people to use her platform to amplify their voices. Now, amplify is a term that I've used, but I actually don't like that term. I think that Black voices have been very loud and very clear for a long time, and that when people are telling us to amplify our voices, it's really because people have chosen to ignore us, not because we weren't loud enough. So I kind of wanted that to be represented here with this idea of this old-time sort of singer singing through his megaphone. He's probably screaming at Jessica because she couldn't hear him the first time. Most of the frames that I use here are antiques and vintage. This one is actually a reproduction. And to me, it was important to use a reproduction frame because it sort of connects to the idea that it's fake. Just like the allyship that we're seeing with so many people out there who are hopefully learning their lessons and learning how to really work on breaking down systemic racism in meaningful ways instead of just with their words.
Okay, who black, who black, who black, who not? I know you mad, they mad, they not. We the sports, in the music, do the math, we the culture. And I gotta ask of you, what have you brought? Look, this attaboy that made me an astronaut. I try to watch the news, but I'm lashing out. My daughter seen a murder on cellular phone, and that was not on purpose, was ordering truth.